Hello and welcome to another episode of the Transformations with Jayne podcast. I'm your host, Jayne Nakata. Today I have a super fun episode for you with my wonderful friend, Helen Iwata. We've both been online entrepreneurs for a while now and have supported each other through various transformations, as you will hear. And I heard about Helen starting her new Less Effort, More Impact. I'm saying that really slowly because I'm trying to get it around the right way, not the wrong way. Less Effort, More Impact movement. And it's actually an in-person event series that you can be part of. And I thought this is fantastic because I've been wanting to have more in-person events for women that are uplifting and we can learn from each other, inspire each other, that are here in Japan. But I am struggling with my own energy levels and being able to actually carry out these events. But then I saw Helen was doing exactly that. So I thought, well, that's fantastic. She's already doing these kind of events. Let's see if we can have more international women attending. And so I asked her to come on the Transformations podcast again. And when I checked back, I was like, oh, it's been like 5 years since you were on last time. So it's definitely time for a check-in with Helen. And she shares a lot of her wisdom that she has from coaching a lot of, especially corporate women. But I think we can all learn something from it. And in this episode, there are a lot of challenges that pop up for me on my side. I had so many interruptions. And you know what? I just left them in. You can hear all of the different things that happened during this episode. Look forward to them. There's at least 3, I think. And they're a bit of fun. So I've left them in this time. So I hope you enjoy this episode with Helen. Hello, Helen. Welcome back to the Transformations with Jayne podcast. Great to have you here again. We're on video this time. Yay. And so if you are someone who likes to watch your podcast on YouTube, you can pop over and see us there. We are just 2 talking heads though, so don't worry if you are listening, you probably won't miss much, but you'll get to see Helen transformed from last time that we spoke, which was, I just checked, I thought it was recently, but it was actually 2018.
Well, it's quite recent, in the
Yeah,
grand scheme of things. So we're
yeah.
in 2023 now, and it was, yes, 2018. Yes, I was a
That's
little
5
bit
years.
surprised
Oh
about
my
that as well.
God.
I think the main thing that people will notice if they're watching the video version is that my face may go suddenly very bright and then suddenly very dark
Oh,
because
okay.
I'm at my parents' right now in the UK. I'm
Right.
facing a window and the weather seems to change every 5 minutes.
Oh, really? Right. Okay. So it's like 1 minute dark, 1 minute blazing
Yeah.
sunshine. Right. This very changeable. It's a bit like that here in Fukushima as well. Today we've had raging thunderstorms and roasting hot. All of the weather
Wow.
today. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So for those people who don't know, who is this Helen person? She's not been on the show for 5 years. They might not know who you are. So yeah, please introduce yourself and yeah, let us know what you do and who you help.
Okay, so I am now known as the Less Effort, More Impact coach, and I'm primarily helping women to do brilliant work without sacrificing their personal lives. This has been quite a transformation since the last time, like since
Mm.
2018, and I think we'll get more into that as we have the conversation. But yeah, I'm primarily working with women now, and I do also support mainly big companies in Japan with communication skills as well, which is part of my history.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
originally from the UK, and as I mentioned, I'm here right now visiting my daughter and my parents, and having a lovely time chatting with people because of the time difference. So I'm having calls with Japan in the mornings, and
Oh,
then this
sorry.
afternoon we're going to go and see. Oh,
Sorry, I have a
a little
call.
sorry.
I never get a call. I have to answer this. Sorry, hang on a moment.
Answer the call.
Sorry. It's from,
No worries.
after all that, they hung up on me. Okay. Oh, hopefully they don't call back too soon. Yeah, so you get afternoons off and mornings you're working while you're in the UK to keep
Yeah,
on with
yeah,
Japan time. Very good.
yeah.
So when you came on the show 5 years ago, you were very much the corporate trainer, weren't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah, and if we
absolutely.
look at the episode artwork for that episode, you've got your very sort of corporate look
Mm-hmm.
going on, so you can sort of see that was the Helen and of that time. And I remember
Mm,
you saying to me and to our mutual friend Jackie Miyabayashi, and Amanda as well
mm,
was there. We were
mm,
having a meeting one day, and you were talking about this. I really want to help women more with
mm.
their communication and with, just being more, I guess, right? And stepping up and all these things. You mentioned this, I think it
Yeah.
was about 2018, right?
It probably was, because if I think back about how this whole transformation progressed, and the thing is that when we talked in 2018, I was going through a transformation at that point as well, and then it's like, and now I went through some more transformation, and now I feel like there's more,
There's more
even
coming,
even now as we
right?
speak. So it's like multiple stages
Mm,
of
mm, mm.
transformation. But thinking about how that progressed, if you remember back in 2018, that's when we were running retreats together.
Yes.
And we just, we'd started doing that, and that was for women. And I was receiving more and more requests from women saying, "Oh, it's great that you do the communication work, but I'm sure that there's so much you could offer to women in terms of coaching based on your experience, your experience in the corporate world, your experience as an entrepreneur, as a mother." Working bilingually, all of these things, you know what it's like when you totally take for granted what you do,
Yeah.
and you don't realize how it looks from other people's perspectives, and so that was really eye-opening to me, and I started doing more work with women, and then it was actually it was towards the end of 2019. And if you remember on that last episode, we were talking about Jim Fortin. At
Yes.
the time, I had just joined his program. You hadn't yet, but then you did afterwards,
Mm, mm,
right?
mm. Yeah.
And then I joined his mastermind. And in 2019, I was in Dallas at his mastermind, and we were talking about what we'd achieved over the year. And so I was talking about the corporate training side of things. I'm like, yeah, on the corporate training, I did this and da 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 da. And then in the women's success side, there was this and this, and it was great.
Mm.
And everyone was like, wow, Helen, do you see the
Helen.
difference there? Like
Yeah.
how much you really light up when you're talking about the women's success side of things. And I went through this complete identity crisis. Like we talked about
Mm,
identity back in
mm.
2018 as well. And I went through this whole, like, because I'd always been the communication expert.
You've got a book
And then it
about
was
it,
like,
right? You wrote a book on it.
exactly. I have a book. I have a book. That was my, when I was with McKinsey, I was the communication expert. I was the manager of client communications. So it was this whole, like, well, how do I let that go
Mm.
and then step into this new kind of role and identity as a women's success coach? Now, I did find a way to do that, because from there, I developed the foundation of the coaching that I do now, which is the Sassida Success Cycle. And that also has a large element around communication, because, of course, if you want to be successful in business, communication, actually not just in business, in
Yeah,
life,
in life in general,
communication
right?
is a
Yeah.
pretty a
Yeah.
pretty significant part of it. So
Mm.
so that worked out. But yeah, that's kind of how that part of that shift from communication to women's success happened.
Whew, yeah, and we can look at it. Like, it's a lot, right? You have gone through a
Yeah.
lot, as I just have to say. And if you're looking at Helen today, don't think it happened overnight, right? It's like
Oh
it
no.
was many years, right, of all of these things going on, trying things, and some things was a struggle, and then trying and trying and things, and now you've got to the point where you are today, right?
Right. And maybe that's a great word to pick up on, is the struggle part, because that then led to the next stage, which I've
Mm,
been going through more recently, and this is kind of developing again, is not only women's success, but the focus on less effort, more impact.
right. Mm,
So, because I really recognized in myself, and, having gone through burnout multiple times, seen it in my colleagues, seen it in, friends as well, clients. I really see it. It's not just women. I do see it a lot in women, though.
mm.
Um, you really overdoing, putting other people first, getting into perfectionism, all of these sort of things. And so it's effort. So when I'm talking about effort, I don't just mean physical effort, but I mean mental and emotional effort as well. So my focus now is how can we look at reducing that level of physical effort in terms of the things that we do, because so often we're doing things that we don't need to be doing. How can we reduce the mental effort, like overthinking things, and the emotional effort when we get very, caught up in things that really we don't need to. So that's I'm still working on with the foundation of the success cycle, but also really focusing even more on that area. And it's something that I just sort of started using that phrase, and people picked up on it very, very quickly, and they were like really curious. So it resonates so strongly with so many people.
Do you mean the less effort, more impact phrase?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because I was trying to send you an email today and I wrote, what did I write? Less impact, more effort. I got it around the wrong way first. And then I was like, no, that's not it. It's the other way around.
Well, that's what happens, right?
Right.
That's what happens
That's the reality of
the
the situation, right? Is people are having less impact with more effort, right? So
exactly.
don't get it around the wrong way. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it may be that that's the way around it is to start with, and it is, and then you start to learn how do we just switch it around? And as you said earlier, it's not a overnight thing. It's gradual, and there's always more layers and more progress
levels
to do. It's like
yeah.
We talked before about the stepping out of your comfort zone, and doing that just a little step by little step, because if you take too big a step, you kind of go into the terror zone. So just go
It's
bit by bit.
Put that with your I was going to say it wrong again. Less impact, more effort.
Less effort, more impact.
I've got to get it around the right way. Oh my god.
Well, I'm started training people, because we'll maybe talk a little bit more about the movement in a little while. But we had our first event for the new the Less Effort, More Impact movement for women in business, and just for fun, I just thought, because it's in person, right? And I just thought this would be kind of fun to do. And so every time I said less effort, all the participants said more impact.
Oh, there you go. That's a good way to get
less
effort in your brain.
More
right
impact. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Oh, now I've forgotten what I was going to ask you. I had a really great question. So what's at the root of all this over-efforting, Helen? What are you seeing is at the root of this?
For people in general?
For people in general, but I think in women, and especially women that you're seeing who are coming to you, are you noticing there is something that's creating this over-efforting perfectionism in particular?
I would say there's a lot of factors to it. And it's for me too, when I look back at my childhood, and it's the I'm an only child, and it's the wanting to please the parents, and that kind of
got a dog appearing in the show now. Sorry.
Oh, hello, dog.
Away you go. Oh, it's all happening here today.
Sebastian. So wanting to.
Sorry, let me
worries.
Eject him, because he's going to bark at me. Just a moment.
Okay, little pause.
Away you go. Oh my gosh. The dog bursting in on me. Sorry, Helen, what were you saying?
No worries. So in my case, I'm an only child. So there was a lot of wanting to, please the parents, that kind of thing. So the more I'm doing and achieving, the more, that gets the recognition and praise from parents, which really comes up with a lot of the women that I talk to. And then that continues in school. It's like, the way that you behave.
Good girl syndrome. Yeah.
Exactly. And then it comes in society, and as we're starting work, and there's obviously there's the imposter syndrome, all of that kind of thing. So you feel that you have to make more effort so that you are at the same level, you can keep up with other people. So that progresses, for us as individuals throughout our life. Plus, there is the brain the way the brain actually functions has an impact on that as well, I would say, because as primitive human beings, we were part of a group, and if we didn't fit in with the group, we would be, cast out, and we would be struggling to find food, or we would become food for a passing beast. So
survival
it was
mechanism.
important to be liked. Exactly, important to be liked, and that's kind of a part of our of the wiring for many of us today as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are the symptoms that people are coming to you with these days? Like, obviously, like, people are saying, Helen, I need help. What are you seeing today?
Well, a lot of it is, overwhelm, overwork. I mean, I work primarily with corporate women and entrepreneurs. And in both cases, there is just so much of doing. As soon as they're up there getting into doing things for other people rather than taking time for themselves, they're saying yes to everything. They, at the end of the day, they still have this to-do list. And they're forgetting, they completely forget, achievement amnesia, Zeigarnik effect. They're forgetting what they have actually achieved during the day and just feeling bad about everything that they still got to do. And it's kind of just this, it's a hamster wheel. And I see this again and again and again.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's no days off from that. There's no holidays from that, right?
Right. Until you start to step out of your comfort zone, because that is, that's even though it's uncomfortable, that is the comfort zone that many women have created for themselves. And I created for myself in the past as well. And so it's really essential, I would say, to do something different, to have courage and say no, or, take some time for yourself. And I know it's not easy. No, it's not easy to actually do it at the beginning. But then when women actually do take that step, they discover that actually it wasn't such a big deal. Like I have multiple stories. Like one of my favorite stories is one client who, she said that she was going to take a day off, a Friday off work, and she decided not to take her phone with her. Because she didn't want to be checking emails during her day off. And then when she got home, she thought about checking her emails, and she decided, actually, I'm not going to check. And she went the whole weekend without checking her work emails, got to work on Monday, quite nervous. And of course, everything was fine. Right?
Are you kidding me?
In the past,
everything was fine? No way.
Everything was fine. Everything was fine.
The world
and she had
kept returning. Yeah.
Exactly. So, and she just did not believe that she could go a weekend plus a weekday without checking her emails, and everything would be fine. And yeah, it was great. So that was, she said that was just so eye-opening for her.
Yeah. Having that opening experience, but also a positive experience, right? You stepped away.
Oh, absolutely.
Nothing went wrong, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't always happen though, right? So I'm glad she had a positive experience in that time.
Well, I mean, it depends. So it's interesting that you say that, Jayne, because do you have a specific situation in mind?
Yes, so I work with a lot of women, right? And the minute they step away from their families, all sorts of things start to happen back at home, right? Someone falls over and breaks their arm. The rice cooker stops working. These challenges pop up, and it's not the universe saying, "Well, what are you going to do now?" But it kind of is too. Like, how are you going to react? You said that this is going to be your time away, and now there's an emergency at home.
Yeah,
what are you going to do?
Yeah. And I would say in a situation like that, it's a case of just looking at what really is an emergency and what isn't, right? Because, rice cooker, not the end of the world.
Hopefully you've got some of that microwavable rice and you'll be fine.
Or you
stop by the...
Or have a sandwich, I mean... Right. It's about, just maybe, again, it's out of the comfort zone for other people as well, doing something a little bit different from what the normal routine would be. So, things like that, as you say, can happen. And it's a case of then how do you respond to that?
Yeah, I see it a lot. It's kind of like this sort of, it's not, yeah, it's like a challenge. Yeah, to this new you who takes time out.
Yeah.
Hang on, here we go. Here's another interruption. It's a Hugo this time.
Hello,
Helen.
Hugo.
You just come back from baseball with your friend.
He's a big Hugo. He's a bigger than last time I saw him.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just having I'm actually recording a podcast at the moment, so you're in the podcast now. You've just appeared. Go and have a big drink while you come back for another go. Oh, right. Go and have a big drink of water and go and do your homework. Okay, thank you. And please tell Amelia not to come in, even if I'm sure she's not home yet. But anyway, that's one home then. What were we talking about? It's just all the things happening. We had phone calls, dogs, children. It's kind of just what we're talking
basically
about, right? How are you going to deal
how
with
you
this?
respond to it. How you respond to things. So, and the thing is, like, it's not going to change if you don't make the changes. So start somewhere.
What are some of the smallest changes that people have made that have helped them get going? Like, you don't have to like quit your job, move to Thailand, for this to make a difference for you, right? It can be something super small. What's something super small?
I'm thinking through the examples, because it can be like even just that taking a little bit of time for yourself in the morning. And this is interesting, because a lot of people talk about morning routines these days, right? And people say, oh, morning routine, get up and meditate, and we journal, and we exercise, and we do all of these things.
What planet are you on? Yes.
It sounds lovely. And then when you have kids, like small kids, and even quite big kids sometimes, there are interruptions that can happen. So what I say with that is, you don't have to have like this great, big, massive morning routine. Have something just small to start with, especially, and then almost expect to be interrupted. And the thing is that when you get interrupted, you deal with the crisis, which is, where is that favorite sock, or whatever it is. You deal with that, and then if you still have time, you go back to the thing that you were doing, or you just say, all right, that's done for today, I will do it tomorrow. But that goes back to the kind of the mental effort and the emotional effort that I was talking about, because when what often happens is you get interrupted and they're like, oh, they interrupted my morning routine, or and get all frustrated. You don't need to do that. You can just say, okay, it didn't happen today. I was there for my family. That's important to me.
Sock crisis was
still
averted.
Go back.
Yes.
Yeah. And the more that you can just say, okay, fine, and then go back to doing your morning routine the next day, then that's great. Or as I said, if you still have time, just pick up where you left off.
Yeah. So what kind of things could one do for a morning routine that, it doesn't have to be 10 steps, like you said? What could be something that could just really give someone that sense of, I did something for myself? I really
do. The meditation one is important to me. I think a lot of people get into perfectionism around what meditation actually is. Even if it's just, I'm going to take a couple of minutes, just close my eyes and breathe. Call that meditation, right?
Yeah.
Just doing that. And that's something that you can come back, like, just for example, like that's part of my routine now, is to do the morning meditation. I didn't do it this morning because of the time difference. I'm up earlier than usual, and I plan to meditate later today. But it can be something that's just really, really short. I really enjoy journaling. I've been journaling it for some time, but it's been on and off. And so here's the thing as well, that I say a lot with my clients, and just in general when I'm talking, is do what works for you, right? Because again, with journaling, we had a discussion in the Sassada VIP Women's Coaching Program recently, because we do have a module that introduces the concept of journaling. And some of the women were saying, well, I can't do that, or I don't feel comfortable because I don't want to write down my emotions. So, well, who says you have to write down your emotions?
Yeah.
You don't have to. And
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of them are like getting into sort of perfectionism, almost as if
Mm.
their journal is going to be a published book.
Yes.
It's not like,
I need to get an A+ for this. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
and or like,
Mm.
oh, I've got to have really neat handwriting.
Right. It's got to be beautiful to
It's got
look
to be
at.
in a
Yeah.
really pretty. It's got to be in a pretty book. Well, I do actually. It's nice to have like a pretty notebook. Although, I mean, I can show you right now because it's right here at the side of me. I can show you this. This is my very pretty journal right now. So
Mm.
those of you who are just listening,
It's a
it's just a
ring
white notebook
bindery type.
because
Mm.
I'm traveling, and instead of bringing what I would normally use, I'm just bringing something small that's easy
Sure.
to use.
Mm.
So it's about do what works for you. So it might be that you just write one line. I really see the value of sometimes it's what's on my mind, because when you're writing down what's on your mind, you start to see. Oh, here's an example. I'm going off on tangents now, but
Mm.
this came up the other day as well. One of the members of the new Less Effort, More Impact movement for women in business, she sent me a message and she said, oh, I was, writing down my, these thoughts that are going through my mind about this big decision that I'm wanting to make. And she says, and then I realized what a bunch of baloney I'm carrying around with me.
Oh, nice.
Because when she actually put it on paper, she's
It's
like,
like,
why am I thinking these things and giving myself such a hard
yeah.
time? So there's that sort of benefit in doing a little bit of journaling. But it can be anything. Do what works for you is what I
Mm.
always say, and it doesn't have to be the same all the time. You can change it so that it works for you.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Mm.
meditation, journaling. It could be some kind of exercise, stretching, even just like for me, having my cup of tea
Mm-hmm.
after, and which continues beyond breakfast. I do love my
Mm.
morning tea, my Yorkshire tea. That just, it's like, what's a little bit of something I'm doing for myself? And then one other thing that I find is really, really powerful, and we do this as well in the facet of the IP Women's Coaching Program. It's just one of these really small techniques that we use, is just writing down those 3 things at the end of the day. That could be things that you want to remember. It could be gratitude. It could be achievement. It could be anything.
Mm.
But it just helps you to recognize, oh wow, yeah, because it's so easy to forget what you did during the day. And
Yeah.
especially when you go back, if you think back to last week, what was great about Wednesday? And you're like,
No idea. Yeah. Mm.
no idea.
Mm.
But then when you look and you just have 3 little things, and I put a little heart mark next to it as well. And sometimes a
Mm.
heart mark at the beginning and at the end, if it's especially, what I'm especially happy
Yeah.
about.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really, really uplifting. So again, it's also the kind of that mental and emotional
Mm.
uplift, and not just things that we are doing physically. There's so much that's determined by the mind.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, okay, I'll throw in my one. I noticed that when I'm doing my self-care things, as in taking care of my appearance, for example, having a shower or brushing my teeth,
Mm.
I am literally doing other things at the same time. I'm like in the shower and I'm
Oh,
looking around my bathroom going, oh, there's mold there. And I've got like a sponge and I'm like scrubbing the wall while I'm also
got it.
showering. Or I'm like
Mm.
brushing my teeth and I'm walking around the house doing stuff like putting
Yeah.
stuff where it goes. I'm doing 2 things at once. I'm not even paying attention to the fact that I'm taking care of myself. And so obviously there are some days where you have to do that, right? You're in a
Mm.
rush, haven't got time, whatever. But
Mm.
that shouldn't be the default way that you take care of yourself, right? So it's like, okay,
Exactly.
we're just going to stand in front of the mirror and brush our teeth. And some days it's
Yeah.
actually really hard to do that. You're just like,
Yeah.
oh, I could be doing 25
Yeah.
things right now, but I'm just standing here and brushing my teeth. It's
Right.
it's a real
It
struggle some days, right? Yeah.
it seems hard, and then when you actually do it, you feel the benefit of it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, oh, I actually took time for myself. It's so interesting you bring this up, because I actually just in my weekly newsletter that went out yesterday, as we're recording this, I was talking about this concept of, I think a lot of people have heard, well, everybody has 24 hours in a day, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when I first heard that, everybody has 24 hours in a day, my interpretation of that was then that we have 24 hours. We need to cram as much as we possibly can into that 24 hours to be successful.
Yeah.
Right. And then, over the time, I've realized it's not about how much you can cram in, but it's the quality of what you are choosing
Mm-hmm.
in that time. And that's been, I was talking about this in relation to the fact that I'm over here in the UK now, and my kind of day to day is quite different. So, that's really powerful, is thinking about the quality of what you're doing. Like, just for example, in the past, when I went for a walk, and that's another, one of those morning routine options. I did that for a while as well. I would always be listening to a podcast or something like that. And now sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't, because I also enjoy just going around the park and looking at the, what flowers are out now, and just enjoying that quiet time in my mind.
Yeah.
So I think that's because I was always the sort of person who was like, let's do two things at the same time. I used to do. I am not. Yeah, multitasking, especially in that way where you can be doing one thing that doesn't require thought and you're thinking about something else or whatever. I mean, in fact, I was probably like triple tasking. In the old days, right? I would be, when I'm drying my hair, I would actually be in a kind of especially when I was doing karate, and I would be in a squat to strengthen my legs. And I would be doing my hair, and then like thinking about a presentation or something like that,
Right.
rehearsing that
Sounds
in my mind.
Very familiar.
It's like crazy multitasking. It's like, it's not necessary. Sometimes, it can be useful, but you don't need to be doing that all the time.
No. Yeah,
especially if it tires you, because it can be like, this is the thing, the do what works for you is, if you are doing things and you feel great, you enjoy it, then it's fine. No need to make any changes. But if you are feeling tired or frustrated or any of those things, well, that's a sign that, okay, well, let's have a look at this. What can we change?
Yeah. And also, I've definitely noticed that my strategies that worked up till the age of 40-ish worked, and now they don't work anymore. And I'm having to reboot my whole way that I'm doing stuff, because I just don't have that energy anymore. And I have to put myself first now, because if I don't, I'm going to end up back where I was a few months ago, which was not very well. So it might be that you need to put yourself first and continue to do that, right?
Again, it's do what works for you at this time of your life. So that the perimenopause conversation, I've been really enjoying. Your conversation with Lindsay, I thought was brilliant, and then your conversation with Miyako was fabulous as well. And certainly that's one thing I've been experiencing. And here's a transformation. So a lot of people think that if you're looking on video, a lot of people think that I've had my hair permed because it's all kind of curly around the sides and the back.
Yeah.
No, this is a natural transformation from aging.
What? So your hair is now curly?
Yeah. It's not curly on the top, but the back and the sides have gone curly.
Since
and that's
when?
just a totally
wow.
From a couple of years ago. Yeah.
Okay.
I was one day I was like looking at the back of my hair and I'm like, what happened here?
Oh my goodness. I have not heard that one. Your hair may get curly.
Yeah. Your hair may get curly.
I hope so.
Yeah, apparently it is a thing. Yeah, it's kind of fun. It's like,
I love it. It's great.
So,
yeah. Yeah, well, you should look out for a new episode on Miyako's channel coming soon. I was a guest for Miyako earlier today, actually. So it's been it's a busy day in the old podcasting world here. 2 episodes in one day. All right. So tell us more about your Less Effort, More Impact movement. We've heard a bit about, what's going on for women and why this is important. What made you decide to bring out these in-person regular events?
So, and I'll go back to because we talked especially around the overwhelm side of things. What also I've been hearing a lot from women in recent months, one is connection.
Yeah.
So, we've gone through the pandemic, and that was an adjustment for everybody. And now people are, what I'm hearing is that they want more in-person meetings. They want closer connection with others, with like-minded, inspiring, uplifting people.
Mm-hmm.
So the connection was one part. Then care being care, especially self-care, caring for others. That's a big topic. And then courage. So opportunities to demonstrate courage in a safe and supportive environment. So based on this is something that I announced. I celebrated my 10th business anniversary quite recently, and I talked about my history and the burnout and the enthusiasm for supporting women, and then I talked about connection, care, and courage, and then announced the start of this movement. So with the movement, what we're doing is around about every 4 to 6 weeks, we're hosting or holding an in-person event. So this is something I feel like a kid at Christmas, like yay, seeing people in person.
Yeah.
Having an in-person event where people can connect. One thing that's already starting to show, because we're only at the very beginning stages of this as we're recording right now. We just had our first event last month, and we've got the next event coming up soon. And what I've already been hearing is, so we're doing things primarily in English. There's a lot of Japanese women coming, and there's also non-Japanese women coming. And what I'm hearing from the Japanese women is they are really excited about this opportunity to mix with non-Japanese women.
Yeah.
And to learn and to receive perspectives and inspiration from them. At the same time, from the non-Japanese women, they're saying, this is an opportunity for me to meet with more Japanese women, because a lot of them say, my circles are very much Japanese to meet with more Japanese women. So that's just, I hadn't even thought about that when this started, but that's kind of an added benefit of it. And then on the care side, we're always making sure that there's an overarching theme of self-care and care for others. So at the first event, Miyako actually led a dance and breathing exercise at the beginning, so that we're starting off with high energy and self-care. And then around the courage, it's opportunities to speak up, to step up. In what I see in the future is opportunities for those who want to maybe lead, present, or lead a workshop or those kind of things in a really safe and supportive environment. Also, those who are entrepreneurs or have their products and services to be able to talk about that in a safe and supportive environment, or people to bring up topics that it's difficult for them to talk about in other places. So some of the women say they see what I'm creating here as they call it, a third space, where it's not work, it's not family, it's somewhere else where they can talk and be open and be really accepted, be really accepted for who you are.
Right. And it's fresh and new, and there's no baggage and there's no history to it. You just show up as you, who you are, and you can expect to be supported. That's really fantastic. And I love that it works for Japanese women and it works for international women.
Exactly.
They're both getting value from it. They're both feeling supported by it and seeing each other and sharing, oh, this is what happens in my life. Well, how do you do that in your life? Oh, well, maybe I could try that because we both live in Japan. It's great to inspire each other.
And I would say there's potential in the future to have a version for, because it's an annual membership, and then have a version for those who are maybe not able to get to Tokyo on such a regular basis, or they're overseas or whatever. We could have that kind of more distanced membership as well,
right?
So that they can benefit. Because one thing that we've done we just released the first newsletter. So after each event, we're releasing a very comprehensive newsletter, which goes through, what we covered. The last event, I ran a workshop on the power of giving up. And
what do you mean by giving up? Like stopping doing things, or just like saying, that's it, I give up?
Giving up in a powerful way and in an intentional way. So giving up things that no longer serve you. And the example that I gave at the actually at that event, just to kind of highlight it as well, and highlight why giving up can be important. When I was a teenager, before I practiced karate, I did judo.
Right.
And there was one time where I was with my male opponent on the mat, newaza, doing, the groundwork. He got me into an arm lock, and being the stubborn Helen that I was, I refused to give up. I refused to submit, and I ended up with a broken arm.
Oh my God.
And when I think about that story, it really, I see how it then played out in my career, where I would continue doing things and pushing myself, even when it wasn't to my benefit. When it was just too much. So then we started looking at, okay, what are the kind of the physical things that you can give up in your life, things that you might be doing that you don't need to do anymore. Maybe it served you in the past, but it's not serving you now. But not just the physical things, but also, mentally and emotionally, what are things that you are, beliefs? What are beliefs that you're holding on to that are no longer serving you? So this is all in the newsletter. It's not just that we did this workshop, but I actually go through all of the exercise and the reflection and things. So what I'm saying is, in a long-winded way,
the point
is that even if people aren't able to join all of the events, there is also a tremendous value, because you're getting the members directory, the connection, and just the ongoing inspiration. And I, as you said, we're at the very beginning. There's no baggage, and there's so much possibility. So we're seeing how it develops. So we also, just yesterday, I had a conversation with the first sponsor. So we've got a sponsor already for the movement, who I'll be announcing very soon. Yeah.
Well, that is exciting. Congratulations on that. Fantastic. Yeah, I can see how being a first adopter and early adopter is a great benefit to join now, and be one of the first in the group is definitely nice.
It is.
Yeah.
So we're keeping the kind of the founding member status open for the first 3 events. So we've hosted one. There's one coming. So we're talking 2023 here, because I know that people listen to podcasts in the future. 2023. The next event is August 6th.
Yeah.
And the one after that is most likely to be September 30th. So anyone who's joining the movement by September 30th will receive the founding member status, which is going to, I haven't worked out all the benefits yet. It's really a kind of, it's a work in process, but of course there are going to be benefits. Even just being able to say, oh, I'm a founding member, right? It sounds nice.
Oh yeah.
But we'll also be looking at, what are the specific benefits of being a founding member as well.
Yeah, and if you're shy to be joining a group, I sometimes struggle with this. It's like, be one of the first to join, and then you get to be there when other people come in. So, yeah.
That's a great point. I love that idea. Yeah. For those who want to contribute ideas at the beginning and help to shape the organization as we're moving the movement, as we're moving forward. It's not that you have to, because people are saying to me, well, what do I have to do? What do I have to agree to do? Well, nothing, apart from,
apart from being a first adopter, like an early adopter.
Be enthusiastic, be open. That's really what it is. We do have an application process for membership, though. We've put the application process in place because we want to, maintain the integrity, the vitality of the movement, and the women who are joining, they're expecting a certain level of enthusiasm within the group. So there is a very simple application process. It's not that you're immediately in, but yeah, it's great to see how it's growing already, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what comes in the future.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, that sounds like a fantastic place to leave our episode today. Is there anything you want to ask me before we sign off?
Well, Jayne, will you be joining us on September 30th?
Well, I have promised that I would. It's on my
Yeah.
calendar. I was going to go to the August one but then I see that my son's has a Shinjinsen, which is the new
Uh,
members baseball game. So it's a game he
mm.
might actually get to play in. He's in this baseball team
Oh,
and
wow.
he's kind of on
Yeah.
the small end. So they never let him play in any of the games.
Mm.
And so this is the game where he might actually be allowed out on the field. So I have to be at
Exciting.
that one. So I won't be able to make the
Mm.
August one, but the September one is on my calendar and I promise. So I shall be there. I'd
Mm-hmm.
love to see some other transformation listeners there and say hi if you if you are and you do see us there at Helen's event. I'm sure it's going to be a
Absolutely.
great one. Yeah.
And I would say, what are you excited about for the movement in terms of what you see?
You know, in my daily life, I just see so many Japanese women who are sort of suffering alone through and
Mm.
putting up with stuff alone
Mm.
in their daily life around me here in Fukushima. So I imagine it's fairly
Mm.
similar in Tokyo, right? I don't think there's a
Mm-hmm.
huge difference. Might be
Mm.
different the kind of things that they are suffering with, and even with international women in Japan, we are a little bit isolated. So I just see
Mm.
there's a lot of potential there for feeling less alone, feeling supported, feeling energized, and then what
Mm.
could possibly happen next? Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
It's so
Mm-hmm.
exciting. I
Mm.
just had a conversation with a friend last week. We were talking about how there was 5 days of no school lunch, right?
Oh.
Yeah. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason was this really, really rubbish reason. And it's like, okay, she was saying to me, oh, I had to make 3 bentos, one for my daughter, one for my husband, one for my son. And he's in third grade and he wanted a kyaraben. And so I had to make that. And I'm like, so how long did this take you each day? She's like, oh, an
Mm.
hour and a half each day. And I
Oh
was
my
like,
goodness.
and so my maths is not great, but that's 7.5 hours, right? In one week
Mm-hmm.
on just
Mm-hmm.
making bentos. I was like, you spent nearly a business day making bentos last week,
Mm-hmm.
and you're telling
Mm-hmm.
me that you don't have time and you want more time? And
Mm-hmm.
she's like, yeah. And we were both just
Mm-hmm.
stunned when we took a step back from
Yeah.
the making the bentos and making
Yeah.
sure that everybody had what they wanted, took a step back and went, oh my God, she went, oh my God, I spent 7.5 hours making bentos last week. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I understand you've got to make bentos. People got to have their lunch, but how do we make it so it's not 7.5 hours of your day of a week?
Right. And it
Yeah,
is,
yeah. Mm.
yeah, and it's tricky because you have all these expectations, like society expectations about how to be a mother. This was another thing in the first event that we had for the movement. One of our guest speakers was Noriko Suzumura, and she's a single mother and she has 3 children, 3
Mm-hmm.
girls.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, on that theme of giving up, she just gave up the idea of living up to everybody else's expectations around being a mother.
Yeah,
And she thinks that she's like probably the happiest single mother in Japan because she
that's
she
amazing.
does what
Yeah.
works for her.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And so I was sort of comparing that to maybe it took me 20 minutes to make 2 bentos because I
Mm.
manage the expectations of my children that we will have the simplest, easy to make bentos that are delicious and
Mm-hmm.
healthy-ish, but
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing special. And I will not get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to crash around in the kitchen and wake you up. And
Crash
so
around in the
because this is
kitchen.
what happens, right? And because my daughter went to school and did a little survey in her class where she was saying, oh,
Mm.
I've got all frozen things. And her friends were going, oh, Ina. And she was like, why? And they were like, well, my mum gets up at 4:30 in the morning and crashes around in the kitchen and wakes me up. And they were complaining about the hard work that their mothers were putting into to make these damn bentos that they were having for lunch. And I heard that. I was like, oh my God, so much wasted effort. It's not
Yeah,
appreciated. And okay, maybe
yeah.
as a mother, you feel better yourself that you know that your child has a wonderful lunch to have. And that's great.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're expecting any gratitude back, then I think we've got a bit of a problem there because you're not
Yeah.
going to get it right. So it has to be for
Yeah.
you, right? And I'm thinking it's probably not. In most cases, it's probably not. It's like, I don't want my bento to be compared to another kid's bento. And then that kid says to my kid, oh, your mum only does that. Oh, poor you, this kind of expectations thing. I really hope that we can help with managing these expectations, recreating some of these expectations. Who created these damn expectations in the first place? Time for a
Right.
refresh.
Yeah.
For 2023.
And this is a great way to do it, is by, sharing what other people are doing. It's like what you're doing through the Transformations with Jayne podcast. You're sharing people's stories that then give inspiration of different ways of doing things, that people can, test out for themselves, and
Give
the
it a
same in the
go.
movement. That
Yeah.
yeah,
See if it
I
works.
love it.
One more story before we go.
Yes.
Another friend, and she's the same thing. I don't have any time. Right. I was saying, well, what about, what about time? Like surely you can get in the bath and just, it's winter, right? Get in the bath, relax for 10 minutes. And she goes, oh no, I take a bath with my children. And I'm like, but your children are 7, 9, and 12. And I think they can wash themselves now, right? I think they're going to be okay. Then they're going to survive, right? And she was like, but what if they don't get all the soap off? And then she heard herself. And then she was like, oh my God, that is what I think.
Yeah.
They're totally fine, aren't they? And I'm like, yeah. Why don't you give it a wee experiment and see? Let's let them go in the shower and the bath by themselves, and you don't need to be there. And maybe they will use too much shampoo. Maybe it might be a bit messy, but you're going to get your own time later to have a bath, once they're all done. And even if it's only 10 minutes, that's great, isn't it? And so she reported back to me like a week later, I did it. It was fine. I had a bath myself. It was great. And I was like, it took to have that, but it was just too atari mai, right? It was too.
Exactly.
Now, this is what a good mother does. A good mother gets in the bath with her children and makes sure they're squeaky, squeaky clean, and there's not a bit of dirt left on them and all of that. But that's not serving you anymore. They're not 2 or 3 and extremely dirty or whatever, like they can manage. And maybe they're not perfectly clean when they come out, but they're going to be okay. So yes, those sorts of stories, this is what's happening in Japan. It's great to bring them into the light and say, oh, actually, that doesn't work.
So many possibilities. I love it.
Isn't it? It's so much room for improvement. It's fantastic.
It really is.
Yeah. All righty. Well, it's been great to connect with you again, Helen. Thank you for taking time out of your trip to the UK to talk to us today. And I hope to see lots of listeners at your events and even go over and check out some of Helen's stuff on her website. Where can people find you?
I would say, well, first of all, go to sasagacommunications.com/movement. We're creating a nice little link there that will take you to the best information related to the movement. So sasagacommunications.com/movement. Or, if you want to contact me, you can email me at info@sasagacommunications.com, or I'm on Instagram. I'm Helen Iwata. You can DM me, or LinkedIn also, Helen Iwata.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, there's loads of great, like even just your podcast, right? You have
exactly. So the podcast. Well, this is I know we're aiming to wrap up this episode, but it keeps getting longer. But
anyway,
like, there's so many possibilities. Because that was another story that I have around the giving up. So after 4 years, over 4 years and 2 months, I believe, of releasing an episode every Monday. Earlier this year, I decided to give up, to put on pause the Sasaga podcast. And that was also intentional, because I realized the amount of time, effort that was going into that, and I wanted to free up some space to be focusing on some other things that like the movement and the other growth in the business. So, and the thing is, it's so interesting because a lot of people don't even realize that it's on pause.
Yeah.
because there's so many episodes already out there. People are still listening to those
Yes.
episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So, why was I spending so much time when it wasn't really, it wasn't necessary? And then, so, yeah.
But yeah, you were
it's just,
next leveling it with a weekly podcast. That's amazing, right? So
I was,
yeah,
and
that's a lot of energy, effort, a lot of
I
effort.
kind of tipped it over the edge by going weekly, not only on the podcast, but also on the YouTube version as well. So that was, that was a lot.
It is a lot. So yeah, amazing bank of work there for people to dive
There's
into
so
if they
many.
want to hear more right now. Just go
Yeah.
pop over there and you'll find all those episodes. All righty.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Helen. Keep in touch. And
Thank
yeah,
you.
we'll see everybody on September 30th, if not
September 30th.
before. Woohoo. I hope you enjoyed that episode with Helen. And after we finished recording, Helen said that she left out one piece of information that she wanted you to know. That was that if you come to the Less Effort, More Impact event, you do not have to be a member for your first time. So you can come, see what it's like. And then after that, if you decide, yes, I would love to keep coming to these events and enjoy all of the other aspects of being a member, then you can join. And then it's this additional fee each time you want to come to the live event, in addition to her membership. It kind of makes sense if you go and look at it on the website. I'm probably not explaining it very well. Anyway, I hope you will join us in September when I'm there, or maybe you'd like to attend the August one, which if you're listening in July, you can sign up for now. And I believe the next one will be available after that to sign up for. Okay, take care. It's very hot out there and we'll see you again soon. Bye.